Hello there, I'm Daz, and in this video I'll be making a walkthrough of Ansilvund. There you can see I'm right at the beginning of Ansilvund Excavation. On the world map, we are not too far from Mazulft, sort of at the midpoint between Windhelm and Riften. So Ansilvund actually has a miscellaneous objective attached to it, which is to kill Al-Skaven in Ansilvund. This will appear in the log once you get part way through the dungeon. I'm actually also here on an errand from the blacksmith in Windhelm to find Queen Freydis' sword inside Ansilvund. At this place there are quite a few collectibles. There is an illusion skill book, 2920 Sun's Dawn Volume 2. After defeating Al-Skaven we can also collect the Ghostblade, and there is a Stone of Barenziah here also, and a copy of the spell tome Transmute Mineral Ore. So this is quite a long dungeon, so I'd best get moving, otherwise we'll be here all day. So in this entrance area, before we tackle that Death Lord, I just want to point out that there is a tunnel off to our right, which is a dead end at the moment. There is another Draugr here. So this is where we'll come out after defeating the dungeon boss, in order to make our escape later on. So as you can see, I'm using the Bloodscar blade as a weapon of choice for this playthrough. So you've probably guessed I'm not going to be doing any sneaking around this time, but I will be using some alteration light spells to brighten things up a little. It's a very dark place, is this one. So there we have a chest. I'm not going to bother picking the locks of any of these chests, but I will do my best to point out all of the ones that I'm aware of. So we have a convenient oil slick. Okay, so as you can see, I'm running a Nord character for this one. So these frost mages aren't a major problem this time around. We have another chest there. We have a trap, which is best to avoid, otherwise the ceiling will collapse. Right, I was hoping not to get spotted right away.
I am Al-Skaven. Who are you to disrupt my work? Begone, or I will add you to my army of the dead.
Okay, so there we are. That is the first dialogue from Loire Al-Skaven, and I will now activate that in my quest log. I'm just going to return to the previous chamber to point something out. So we actually have in here another chest. I'll go to the map because this is quite important actually. I wish that music would stop playing, but I don't think it's gonna do. So actually from this point you can skip a large section of this dungeon. What you'll need to do is just jump up onto the back of this chair, or perhaps even onto that table, and if you have 2 letters of the Whirlwind Sprint Shout, 2 words of the Whirlwind Sprint Shout, sorry, you can manage to hop your way over there onto that raised area. So that will skip quite a few of the enemies if you're sneaking around, but the problem is it will also skip the initial dialogue to trigger the objective to kill Loire Al-Skaven. So that will never appear in your quest journal. Loire Al-Skaven will still be there at the end of the dungeon and you'll still be able to acquire the Ghostblade. It's just that the objective will never appear in the journal. Once we get round to that raised area later on, I will point it out so you can see how much of the dungeon you are able to skip. I don't think there's anything here apart from some rather useful alchemy ingredients. So there we are.
Rise from your graves to defeat this worm.
So as you've probably worked out, Loire Al-Skaven has got some serious anger issues, which we're going to be forced to deal with at some point. So we need to head off in this direction. There is a trap to avoid here, which I'll just step on. And we now come to that raised area that I pointed out previously. There we are. That is a chair that I was standing on a few moments ago talking about the Whirlwind Sprint. Another chest right there. And there we move on past this Death Lord who thinks he's a miner. Now we've got some more mages to deal with once we exit this little tunnel. I'll go back to the map. Yeah, there's lots of twists and turns in this place. We have a tripwire, so you can either trigger that and then run backwards, or... well, I'll trigger it anyway. Yeah, so there you are, just a few rocks. Or you can just jump over it. Okay, So we need to solve a little puzzle in order to proceed. What we're doing there's the pull handle. If we pull it right now, yep, we'll just be hit with darts. That was clever. And we need to read this book of Fiori and Hallgeir. And the answer to the little riddle is eagle snake, whale snake. Okay, that should do it. Eagle, snake, whale, snake. Success. Another trap to avoid. And we're just about to transition into Ansilvund burial chambers. Okay, so there are many floor traps to avoid right here. Some of these will set off dart traps, and others will start these pendulum blades swinging. So best to avoid those. We have an optional little area here, just a single room, but with a high level chest inside. I'm not going to pick this chest. I don't have a particularly high lockpick skill. This pull chain just resets these traps in case you happen to step on any of the plates. Okay, so I need to be careful in here using the blood scowl blade. Because, well, firstly, actually I'll show you where we are, and we have our first collectible right here, which is the Illusion Skill Book, 2920 Sun's Dawn Volume 2. I'll take that. I'm going to be hit with some darts if I don't get out of the way quickly. Now from here, if you're a more sneak oriented character and you have a high lockpicking skill, you can avoid some more combat by just running around. There is an optional door there with a chest inside with a master lock. And there is a mandatory door there which you will need to get through with a master lock in order to proceed further. What I'm going to do is grab the key, but in grabbing the key it will awaken a bunch of slumbering Draugr and also trigger some more dialogue from Luar Al-Skaven. So I'll do that now.
I shall have vengeance for the death of my husband. Rise!
And this is also why I mentioned about being careful when I entered this chamber with a blood scowl blade, because on the practice run I sent one of the energy waves up there, and that obviously triggered some of the Draugr to leave their tombs a little earlier than expected. The door there, nothing really in there, serves no purpose whatsoever. And we are now not too far from completing this dungeon. It's not taken as long as I thought it would, to be honest. Here we have another Draugr, who's clearly remembering his past life as a miner. Although, we cannot even interact with that ore vein. So it's not a real one. Right, so, excuse me, I'm going to make a quick save right now. So I have the Become Ethereal Shout, and that's not really, excuse me, that's not really any help up here either. So there are a couple of traps that we really want to avoid. Otherwise, we're going to get knocked off this walkway by those spike traps up there. There we are. Just allow him to knock himself off. Avoid that one. Yeah, there are two of those to avoid. And I think I'm about to be ambushed again and receive some more dialogue.
I could not raise him, but I will raise an army to avenge his defilement.
There's another one of these traps right here. There we are. Right, and I think now we have a clear run right to the throne room. I'll just keep a little bit of an eye out for any more chests. I don't think there are any though. Apologies if I have missed any chests along the way. Doubtless I have done. So just about to enter the throne room. Al-Skaven. You can actually take her out from here with a stealth attack, if that is what you want to do. I'm just going to let the fight play out and give her.
His body before I could raise him. It should have been returned to me.
I'll give her a chance to raise her followers.
From killing those who wage this pointless war. Huh? Found you.
So she's now raised Fiori and Hallgeir. So there they are. It's actually best to ignore those and just concentrate on Loire. There we are. Once you defeat Loire Al-Skaven, that will put an end to Fiori and Hallgeir.
Now we can rest in peace once again. Come, Fury, my love.
Take this with our gratitude.
Okay, combat's over. I can brighten things up a little. So here we have the Ghostblade. It's not the most brilliant weapon, but I have actually used it on occasion as a spare weapon on a warrior character. It's very lightweight, so it doesn't take up much weight on the inventory. You'll need 3 ectoplasm and the Arcane Blacksmith perk in order to improve this at a grindstone. It's best not to place this on a weapon plaque or a weapon rack. It can be quite buggy and it can disappear, so if you want to store this, it's best to stick it into a chest. We also have a stone of Barenziah, and you will also need to obtain this key from Loire's body in order to escape this dungeon. And we need to leave in that direction, which I'll do now. There is a chest here as well. There's obviously an enemy has been missed at some point, which is why we're still hearing this dramatic music. Just make sure there's nothing else up here. And for me personally, I can now obtain Queen Freydis Sword. And here we have some information which might be useful for the backstory of Loire Al-Skaven. I'll just leave that there. And we also have the Transmute Mineral Ore Spell Tome. So I'll leave that information on screen for a few seconds. So I will make my way right out of the dungeon before finishing the video. And this is the gate that requires the key from Loire's body. And we are now back in the passage that I wandered down right at the beginning of this video. So I hope this has been useful. And a big thanks to anybody who has had the fortitude to stay right until the end of this video. So there we are, the music finally stops playing. Can have a bit of peace and quiet. And let's use the Ghostblade for the thumbnail. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.